the cosmic dream king. He is the dreamer. So the dream and reality are together. Last year, this year, a big chunk of next year in the dream fields. So old reality patterns are dissolving, and we're part of it. And as those old patterns dissolve, new ones are being dreamed into being, and we're part of that too. So what is happening? And then in this eclipse season, it's like the dream fields are really coming alive. They're quickening with new energy. But this isn't like, it's Aries season, new beginning, new cycle. But this year, there are more planets in Pisces than in Aries, including the planet who's guiding everything that ever happens in Aries, Mars. Mars is in Pisces. So what we're really doing, what's really going on, whatever it means, and it probably means at least 8 billion things, because there's 8 billion of us here. We're co-creating something, and not just by ourselves, but with the great mystery that we're made of. What was I going to say? Something about Mars being in Pisces. Oh, because the new beginning is really it's happening in the dream fields too. Like our dreams are, I don't know what we all feel, but there are two things that are part of this eclipse that we know. And one is the eclipse is exactly conjunct to the minute this strange centaur planet, unlike anything we had ever seen when we discovered him in 1977. His name is Chiron. Chiron is often, if most people who know anything about astrology, and a lot of astrologers too, call Chiron the wounded healer. But the people who've done the deepest work and really the pioneering, path-breaking work with Chiron, they say, and I think they're right, that when we think of Chiron as like the wounded healer, we're really distorting who he is. We're thinking, and that he has to do with healing a wound. That gets us into this mentality of like we're broken somehow and we just need to fix the broken thing and then everything will be fine. Chiron is like so much more magical than that. He's part comet and part planet. He has a tail like a comet, and he has a ring, and his ring is very magical. When we look at it at different times, it seems to be always evolving. We don't really know what a planet's rings help the planet do, but we know a lot of the magical ones have these rings. Well, not a lot, but there aren't that many who have rings. It's a big deal to have a ring. So anyway, in us, we know in the solar system, Chiron hasn't always been here in the inner solar system. If you go back far enough, where in the column, in the star tables, the column for Chiron will say NA, 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 because he wasn't here. He migrated in. He's here on a mission. And he's not going to be here forever. He's doing something here. And I think he's a key to what's happening now, because he's exactly conjunct this eclipse. He's going all comet. Like here in our reality space, our part of the universe, Chiron is, by the time he leaves our solar system, he'll be a full-fledged comet. And I think so part of what I think is going on now is we're beginning to get some clues that maybe we're not these solid things either, but maybe we're these cosmic processes too, that we're evolving, becoming, discovering all the parts of us that, our butterfly self, our dragon selves. Now, that might sound totally weird, but that's what I think is going on. I Good.
Someone wants to reach you. That's interesting. I didn't know that that all these things are happening. But how that? I know it's kind of like vague at the moment. But how does it all affect us? For example, I feel not I feel, but I see people that are tired, that are that have physical pains now that wasn't there before. Uh, there are changes here and there that are happening. People are unsure what's going on. How it's
Yeah.
all part of those astrological changes, like planetary changes, and
So there are a lot of planetary changes. I mean, this being in the dream fields now is like we are dissolving a huge cycle of reality because Saturn and Neptune, and this is the other thing about the cosmos, it's always moving and changing. Like the planets, nothing in the universe is like, here I am, here I'm staying, now you see me. Every planet in our solar system is in a process of change and transformation, not just Chiron. And so are we. And so is our whole reality. And that's very normal when we look at like the universe and even when we look at Earth. She goes through huge changes. But when we think about how we've been taught the way things are, it's like, really? What's going on? What's happening? And next, when we look to what's going to happen next year, we begin to get a sense of how big this shift is. Next year, Saturn and Neptune are both going to move out of Pisces. They're going into Aries, where everything starts all over again. And they'll be really close together next summer. Then they'll be like, whoa, this is big. We need to go back and do a little bit more dreaming. And then in February of 26, they're going to come exactly together. Dream and reality, things will be happening that right now would seem impossible, even to us. That always happens when Saturn and Neptune conjoin, but which is every 35 to 37 years. And the last time it happened was 1989. And if somebody had said to you or to me in 1987, you know what, in 2 years, the Berlin Wall is going to come down and it'll be totally peaceful. It's just coming down. You probably would have gone, yeah, sure, whatever. And then if they had said, but that's just going to be the beginning. After that, all these Soviet bloc countries of Eastern Europe, they're going to have completely peaceful revolutions. They're going to call them the singing revolutions because that's what people are going to do. They're going to go by the tens of thousands to the public squares and they're going to sing. And the Soviet bloc, Soviet rule will just go away. And then they would have said, what have you been smoking? I mean, get real. That's not going to happen. That's exactly what happened. Saturn and Neptune in 1989 conjoined in Capricorn, very structured and orderly and not known for doing rash, impulsive things. This is happening in Aries in 2026 in 0 degrees of Aries, the most dynamic degree in the whole zodiac. So, and even though Saturn and Neptune conjoin every 35 to 37 years, they have never conjoined in this degree, the first degree of the whole zodiac. It's been over 2,000 years. So we're dreaming a new civilizational dream. Now, does that mean on February 20th, 2026, we're going to wake up and go, whoa, it's a whole new civilization? Probably not. But we will know, whoa, this is different. Something's happening. And then that's going to be you know, the mother of all beginnings. We're taking a big step in that direction. We're reorienting right now, this month. So why are so many people so tired and sleepy? dreaming happens not when we're out there doing. And why are so many people feeling sick and achy and all these things? Well, I think part of the dreaming process is the old patterns, they have to come up. So we can say, don't need this, in the new. It's all, or even when something's dissolving, sometimes there can be a lot of gunk in the water, as and because two things are happening now. An old reality is dissolving, and then a new one. That's why it's so important. Our intuitions, our desires, what feels alive to us. That's all fertilizing the dream field.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Oh my God, there's a lot of information. All of it is coming in, and yes, it does. It does make sense. I just want to say one thing. Hello to Carly. She said sends a hello from one of our listeners. We have a lot on the line. If anybody has any question, please don't hesitate to ask. Um, we'd like to hear your questions, and hopefully Marcia or one of our my co-hosts will be able to answer them.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Of course, you can ask a question.
So, Marcia, I haven't heard you say that Chiron is physically changing. That sounds really fascinating, and it reminds me of lichen, which I'm a little bit obsessed with. Right, it's sort of two things creating one, and so if he's turning into a comet, what don't comets eventually sort of burn out, lose themselves, or no? Like, what does that mean that he's changing? And
so these are such great questions. And yeah, not everything in the universe, it's like one giant, you could think of it as like studio where things come into being. It's a creation lab, our universe. Things come into being but nothing stays the same. Even a star has different phases of its life. And eventually a star will, go nova. It'll explode and create a gigantic light. And we're made of stars that exploded, every atom in our being. So I think of it as what happens to us. We don't last forever either. Eventually, or in this form, we don't. We go back into the everything. Nothing ever disappears. It's, the electrons in our atoms, this is mind bending, are older than the universe. Like, we've been around a long time. So I think it's a different, I think what's happening now is a different paradigm is beginning to arise, a new one that's more cosmically aligned. And why is that important? Because we think of the cosmos as being out there and far away. But the universe, it not only comes right up to your own skin, but it's inside of us too. Like, we aren't separate in any way from it. So as the way of the future, I think if there's going to be a future, and we're at an edgy place, and I think we probably need to be there to go, wait a minute, we gotta reorient. um I think the way of the future is to resonate with this thing that is we're made of. It's woven into us. We're not separate from it. And what we know about it, it's infinitely creative. It's infinitely transformative. So the more we lean into that, the less we have to worry about. We could never run out of energy or run out of creative solutions. only when we think we're separate and we have to figure it all out, we have to make it all happen, that is going to always lead us into trouble. And I think that's the trouble we're in right now. We've
Mm.
forgotten what we're part of and how to come into resonance with it.
Can I ask something here, just from what you were saying? You know, does coming into resonance with what's happening astrologically improve our chances, or like, is there sort of a calling for everybody to become more aware, to wake up and to kind of I suppose align with kind of those circadian rhythms, the rhythms of the planets? um
Yeah, that's a great question, Susie. Now, here's what I think. And what I think is just, like, I often say I should write a book. Everything I know, I learned from looking at the stars, but it's what I take away from it, like, so it's not, I mean, that's what I think. We all have our own perspective, but I do think for all of us who feel called by the moon and the stars and the spring, it's never been more important to come into resonance with it. And I think it's really significant. I mean, like, CNN and USA Today, I mean, all these, mainstream publications, this solar eclipse is like, it's headline news. And I think that's fantastic because it shows we deep down, we all know like something's happening and it's big. Now, I also, one of the things I've learned from astrology is that resistance isn't bad. The conflict and crisis points actually create energy. So maybe I think everyone who's on this path of awakening or this path of transforming or whatever we want to, call it, it is important for us to tune in. It's like the earth is, and the human field, we're part of the earth. It's like we're in labor, and you wouldn't say to a woman in labor, or if a woman was going into labor and she's like, yeah, I think it's starting, but I've got this to do, and I don't want to cancel that meeting. It was so hard to get it together. You'd go, lady, wake up. There's something big going on. So I do think, but I also think the people who are like, la 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 la, what's different? What are you talking about? We need to go back to the, 19th century, the way things used to be. I think they're serving a purpose too. They're showing us we have to have a big vision, a strong vision. We have to have a dream that's bigger than, dreams about going back to the way things used to be and dreams of the old hierarchies. Everything, this is something that a great astrologer 2,000 years ago said. The stars are like letters in the sky. All things are connected. All things are interdependent. Everything breathes together. So I feel like in some way, everything that's happening is magnetizing our awareness that things are changing, that we're part of the change, that we don't need to be afraid of it. Unless we, if we try and control it, then we'll be in trouble. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I love how you put it so simply and succinctly, actually. I think I complicate things in my mind a bit, that I think that it's kind of beyond me a little bit, so I kind of steer away. But I do feel like it's just being aware, really. It's really being aware and having the bigger picture, the bigger dream. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that because that's so important. It's like sometimes we can think, oh, that's too big, and that's just gonna have to happen on its own. I got my own stuff to worry about. But sometimes, and that's right. But it's like, I feel like the truth is somewhere in between. It's like when we resonate with the bigger picture, when we know that everything's changing and we're part of it, then we can let that support us, and when we need to focus on our own reality, we can if we can ride the wave, know that we're riding a bigger wave, we don't feel quite so isolated.
Yeah. I have two questions from the audience. This is Judy Brady. I don't know if you know her. Of
I
course.
do know Judy.
She's saying his wife, Clarico, is she also morphing into a comet?
Oh, that is such a great question. And I wish I knew. I don't know. I've wondered the same thing, Judy, myself. But Chariklo, so let me just say a little bit more about to help appreciate Chariklo. Because all of these celestial beings, they're in our own birth charts. Like when we took our first breath, we breathed in the energy pattern in the sky, and our receptors to all these planets opened up. So whenever for instance, this is how we connect with Chiron. He was half horse and half human. So he didn't fit in anywhere. And in fact, the reason he was half horse is his father was Saturn, reality. And like all the Olympic gods, these were the gods of the rising patriarchy, and they were all notorious adulterers, seducers, rapists. They were conquerors, they were dominators. So Saturn was, I think, from what we know of the story, because she was all in for it, and power is a huge aphrodisiac, I think he was seducing this woman. And he hears his wife coming along, and bullies are almost always cowards. And he hears his wife's voice, Saturn, and so he turns himself into a horse. Which says so much in itself. Like he thinks she won't think a thing if she walks by and sees a horse having sex with a woman, but if she saw it was me, woo, I don't want to deal with that. So he turns himself into a horse, and sure enough, she just walked on by. But at that very moment, he impregnated the woman. So 9 months later, she gives birth to a baby who's half horse and half human. That wasn't what she was up for at all. She was thrilled at the idea she would have a part divine child. That would she'd make her powerful. But a half horse, she was disgusted and horrified. And she said, take it away. Take it to Saturn. So they bring this strange child to Saturn, and he's like, can't have that here. Take him away. Take him to Apollo, who was the god of light and prophecy and healing. And Apollo did not reject this odd child. He raised him and taught him a lot of magical things. So Chiron grows up. He doesn't fit anywhere. He doesn't fit into the human world. He doesn't fit into the divine world. He's like, and there's a part of all of us, especially in this world. We all know we knew growing up, we were expected, there's a certain way to look and a certain way not to look. And it might be different in different families and cultures, but we all know there are things you don't say, a certain way to behave, a certain way not to behave. Well, Chiron didn't fit into any of that. But if you would ask anyone in the ancient Mediterranean, who's the wisest being in the universe? They would have said, oh, that's Chiron, wiser even than the gods. So Chariklo this is not in standard myths, and there's not a lot of mythology about her, but I just learned there is one version of the mythology that says she was a daughter of Apollo. She was a daughter of Apollo. She could have had any life partner she wanted. She was like, I want Chiron. I want to be part of that. I want to be part of what he's doing. So she goes to him. She went to him and she was like, I want to share this work. I want to share your life. And her medicine is very magical. And I think this is really, when you think about it, it's our medicine too, maybe the most powerful. She creates and holds the space where the really big magic happens. And when you think about it, like all the most magical things, did we really make them happen? Or did we kind of create a space where it could happen? You know, like every conversation with this conversation is going to make some things more likely. We may see something more likely to see some things a different way than others, or maybe someone will realize something listening to us or have their own question. What we do creates a space, and maybe that's the most important thing that lets magic happen, and that is Chari clothes medicine. So the question, Judy, about is she a comet too? I think she probably is, because I think that's all the centaurs are, part comet, part asteroid. But I'm going to have to research on that one, which is a great thing about astrology. There's always something new to learn. And nobody could know it all, so you can't feel too bad for not knowing every answer.
Thanks, Marcia. I have first of all, I just want to thank everybody who's on the line with us. I know we have people in London that are on, Ottawa, Lebanon, and Scotland.
I love that.
So we have a question from Linda from Scotland, which is not really astrological, but spiritual. Hello. What are your thoughts on reincarnation? I believe spirits are around us all the time. So, can we be in a new physical form as well as being in spirit form around loved ones? Marcia, I'll give that to you at the beginning, and we can go on a.
Well, I would say yes, totally, definitely. As much, though, just from my own life experience as from astrology. I mean, I think I already knew that before I ever knew anything about astrology. But we can see it in the birth chart, too. We can definitely see and often have a strong sense looking at a birth chart of where in another parts of us of someone who are rooted in another lifetime, definitely. And the 2 points are that tell us a lot about the evolutionary trajectory we are on. They're these energy gates in the moon's orbit, and they're called the nodes of the moon, but they've been known for a long time as the head of the cosmic dragon. The dragon's head is what we came into this life to embody, and the tail of the dragon is what we're bringing with us. We've already done it. We've already lived it. It's kind of like our launch pad once we get here. Things that we know, people that we've known. There actually are a number of ways, and most of them are connected to the moon, that give us access to other lifetimes in our soul's journey.
Anyone else from the team would like to jump in on this one? No, I can't jump in on this one.
It's so big. How do you
It
right?
is.
How do you jump into it? I mean, we talk about mystic families because we have a, I mean, why, how did I meet you, Ramsey, in Montreal, and why did I meet you, Susie, in Ireland, and Marcia, right? We're connected in those ways. So many people now are having dreams of being on other planets or being within different galaxies in the, what is this place where I find myself? And then you look at the James Webb photos and oh, that's where it was, right? I think it's undeniable. That's at least what I believe is, yeah, I'm in different places and there are people around me that are in different places. That's where our loves come from, the things that we're really interested in, right? Why would my son want to do everything Viking? It could have been arrows from a story about King Arthur, but no, it was all Viking stuff. Um, yeah, I think it's undeniable, and maybe that's part of this portal is just opening up and starting to believe some of it too, and make those connections that make me feel more whole when I feel like my people are not international and global and cosmic, right? How reassuring is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kathy. Well, as a psychic medium, I tell you, I see spirit all the time. So, do we reincarnate? Yes, back and forth. Um, we've all experienced memories of past lives here or somewhere else. We've known people without even seeing them. We're attracted to people that we've never met before. It's like you see someone on the street and, oh my God, you're best friends within 2 seconds. That didn't happen right then and there. That happened over time, like eons. And we've been working together since the beginning of time, and we continue working together. So we're in and out and in at the same time. I know it doesn't make sense, but that's how it is. And I feel the closer we're getting to, like Marcia, you said February 2026. I feel the more we get closer to that date, the thinner the veil, the more information we're getting, and we are able to see things in a totally different perspective. Totally different perspective. And for those who believe that there are contacts with ET, there are contacts. We are in contact with ourselves. It's not an extraterrestrial being. It is us in on another planet. And yesterday we were on a meditation hour with Susie, and I was transported into a different planet. Why? Why would I go over there? Like, there's so much stuff to see over here. No, I was brought to see something else. So yes, we do jump in and out different realms, and we could be in two realms at the same time.
Yeah, I'm totally going along with what you're all saying there. For me, I feel like past lives and the idea of being in other places can be quite a distraction, and it can be fun. It can be a wonderful distraction at that. But also, having said that, you know, with meditation, I'm really all about being here and now. Well, this is where I am. This is the physical body that I'm occupying, and I'm here to have this, expansive experience. So I do feel like some of this experience is being informed by previous incarnations, perhaps. And I feel like that often explains my unusual interest, not unusual, but like unexpected interest in things that don't come to me from my culture, let's say. like Vedic, Vedanta, Indian, kind of studying yoga, meditation, things like that. But then equally, I've gone to places and I've just had the feelings when I've got there that, wow, I've definitely been here before. Or when I meet people, and even though Ramsey and Kathy or Marcia and I have never physically met, there's always a sense of knowing, that inner knowing, that connection. And I love that. I could be in a room full of people here and not feel connected at all. But then I, meet up with other people, whether it's physically or virtually, and really feel like a connection that goes way beyond the amount of time that I would have known them in this particular lifetime. So yeah, but I guess I keep wanting to come back to, okay, well, this is it. This is where I am. How can I use and some of these things to support me and to support others and support each other, let's say. So yeah, that's my tuppence worth anyway over here.
Well, she replied, I've experienced regression and have had multiple life forms. It's such a huge topic for discussion, but I could that some of my traits relate to my past experiences. 100%. 100%. We bring with us a lot of stuff from we don't know where, and it's always, oh, where did I get this from? Like out of the blue, you're just there. You know how to do something that you've never done before, or be able to answer such a certain questions that you've on topics that you've never been exposed to, and all that comes from the experiences that we have that are kind of buried somewhere that we don't remember, but it just surfaces whenever we need it.
You
Oh,
know,
thanks. I feel that when I'm around that. Sorry, somebody was trying to
yeah,
speak.
I was just going to say, I was thinking about what you said about, um, all the things that are the thinning of the veils that we're all feeling. And part of the reason for that astrologically that we can see is that Neptune is getting very close to the very last degree of the very last sign of the zodiac, Pisces. Pisces is like that great ocean, everything comes in it to dissolve. And that's where the new, gestates. So by May 3rd, Neptune's going to be in the very last degree of the whole zodiac, 29 degrees. And he's our pipeline to other dimensions, to the whole cosmos. And he's going to stay in 29 degrees all summer long for 4 months. So I think it's going to be I would expect a very intense dream like summer, which doesn't mean, sometimes we may feel spaced out, but I think a lot of things will be coming up to be released. We'll have a sense of urgency. The 29 degrees in any sign, astrologers call it the urgent degree. So I think we're going to feel a quickening of all of the things we're feeling now, as intense as it seems now. The summer will be very potent. And that's why I think it's important to remember we're going deeper into global metamorphosis. So we're not yet to the point where things are going to settle down. And there is, I feel, a lot of fear in the field. We all know what's happening. It hasn't happened like this before. So I think it's important to hold a space of not knowing, not trying to make it go away. Let this process, just like if it was a woman in labor, we don't try and stop it or say, we let her breathe. We support. I feel like there's a laboring woman. We can't see her, but she's We're all part of her. So we want to hold space for her and encourage her. And do your feet need rubbing? And another contraction going to be coming soon. We're all serving as doulas for a new world in a way now.
Oh, that's beautifully put. So all we can do is just stay grounded and hold space. That's all I there's we should not be interfering in the process itself, as the process is gonna manifest or appear the way it's supposed to manifest and appear.
Well, it will, I think a lot of it will unfold through us. So that's the important thing about resonance, really tuning in. What is our intuition telling us? Oh, let's start a podcast. That will then be very important to do. Or, oh, let's do this. We're part of it. So we don't have to wait because we are the ones. We're not the only ones, but we're part of it. So, and don't you find it's like that for you? There are times when you feel like, I'm not feeling it. And then there are other times when you're like, hey, I got this great idea.
Yeah.
Like this. Like Open Mic UK just came in a flash, didn't it? When I look at the creative things that have happened between, the Spirit Cafe people in the last couple of months since January, I suppose, really, it's been quite profound. Every month there's been something like way beyond gestating. Like it's like it's come through the birth canal. It's like it wants to, like we're giving birth every month practically to developing ideas and new ways of communicating, connecting with each other, practicing together. It's like a surge, it feels like to me,
Yeah, and that what you said about how everything's happening together is so important, I think, because it's kind of like it's a spiral, and we keep going around and around. And as we go around, we'll do different things. We get to different parts of the circle, and sometimes it's hard to see. Are we getting anywhere? Aren't we going in the wrong direction? But we're expanding out and we're expanding in. And it's kind of like, labor. But then on another level, this is like a labor that is happening over a long period of time. And we give birth, just like you said, we'll probably give birth 1,000 times before we're like, whoa, yeah, this is totally a new world. It is in some way. And if our own Milky Way is a spiral, I think the spiral is the way it happens.
That's incredible that you're saying that, Marcia, because in the meditations that we did yesterday, it was spiral, was the pattern that was coming, spiraling through different timelines, past, present, and future. So I love that you brought
wow, that sounds powerful and magical.
Wow.
And real, too. Like, that's what we're all living right now, I think. I feel like I am, anyway.
I think we all are, even the ones that are not paying attention to it because they're too into the 3D stuff. They're still feeling it somehow.
Yeah.
We have a question from one of our listeners. Wonderful. May I ask if my body will support the challenge going back to work in starting a business? Oh, I'm sorry. That is not. Okay, that has nothing to do with the topic of today. But I don't know if you have any insight, especially with the changes that are taking place.
Well, I will say that Chiron is often associated with like things that come up in the body. Like even to ask the question to me says, you're feeling Chiron's presence. I mean, we're all feeling it one way or another. But The thing about Chiron that I think we can all kind of find our own ways of coming into resonance with. Rumi said this like, oh, is it 800 years ago? The wound is the place the light enters you. And there's something about Chiron and his weird, the part of us, we all have that part. It doesn't fit in. It doesn't, and if we trust, oh, that's our Chiron part, we don't need to shame it. We don't need to try and make it conform. We just need to see it and honor it and give it a place in the circle. Because Chiron, we can see this in his orbit. He has very elliptical orbit as he's going around the sun. And this is the thing when we discovered him, we were like, whoa, what is this? Because all the other planets in the inner solar system, the main plane, they're like a dinner place setting, everybody's in their own lane. Stay out of your lane, stay in your own lane. It's very predictable, very easy to control. Once we discovered Chiron, and even more when we discovered all the planets out at the edge, the Kuiper Belt, things become more complicated. Chiron gets up in other people's space. He's inside the status quo for just like a year and a half of his 50-year journey around the sun. Then he goes way out of the consensus reality. He leaves it. He goes out into Uranus's space, nonconformist, maverick, intuitive, quantum, radical, revolutionary, creative disruptor Uranus. And Chiron takes all that energy and he brings it back into the status quo reality. So when Chiron is alive in the field, and he is now for everybody on Earth, we look at what's wrong with our bodies, feeling achy, feeling, having some issue that's flaring up again, anything it could be. A lot of it probably depends on where we have Chiron in our own birth charts, what sign is he in, etc. But when he's awake in the field, he's asking us to lean into our wholeness, to lean into the truth that every atom in our bodies was made in a star, to live into the truth that we are connected to everything in our solar system, and through our birth charts, we're connected to the whole universe. We're part of a bigger picture. And when we realize that in our bodies, we can do whatever we can rest when we need to rest. If our body is telling us, I don't know about going back to work, I don't know if I can do that. Instead of trying to make the body wrong, maybe find a way to speak the body's own language, to give it more of what it's wanting or needing. I mean, that can be a whole journey and involve many different things. But I would, Chiron and Pisces, you are totally, your Chiron, that's where Saturn, that's the dream fields. So yeah, you're going through a big cosmic initiation right now. So I'm going to say this from the point of view of, Chiron. Chiron cares a lot more about your magic and your medicine than he does about your job. Now, in this reality, you have to have a job, but so I'm not saying, but I'm just saying there is something. I think Chiron may be trying to open some new pathways for your essence medicine, and following those, trying to give Chiron some more room in your life might go a long way towards helping your body maintain equilibrium, and might either let you go back to work if the job is one where there's room for Chiron, or maybe find something else to do that where Chiron can be his. Remember, He was the one the Greeks said, nobody's wiser than Chiron. He was all the culture heroes of the ancient Mediterranean. Chiron taught every one of them. He taught healing to the god of healing. He was the mentor to the god Dionysus. I mean, he was amazing, and we all have some of his energy. But we live in a world that has, it's like, what? That's weird. But that's kind of what we're evolving into, to make room for who we are instead of trying to fit into what somebody else wants us to be. I don't know if that answers your question, Leah, but you really, if you have Chiron and Pisces, and now you've just a few years ago had your Chiron return, so you have full access now to your own medicine, your Chiron medicine, and now Saturn and Neptune. It could very well be they're dreaming up some whole new way to bring your medicine to the world.
That's a good way of looking at it. Thanks a lot, Marcia. It's funny, we're getting close to the hour. We still have 4 minutes. I don't know where time went. I'm just going to say hello to everyone that joined us. Thank you so much for being on the show. I know we have a lot of people from different parts of the world today. Thank you all for joining. Marcia, before we end this episode, what should we be expect, or what? I don't know, that expectation is not a good way of looking at things, but we have a lunar eclipse that is happening on Monday.
Solar.
My apologies. We passed the lunar.
Yeah.
Everything is happening this week. So what is your what did you suggest that we do on that day?
I'm so glad you asked that, because this is such an important time. So at a solar eclipse, the moon blocks the light of the sun, even if we're not in the path of totality. We may not be able to see it with our outer eyes, but believe me, those atoms that were made in a star, they know. We can't live without that star, the sun. We literally eat the light of the sun to stay alive. So it's like the most powerful of new moons. Right up until the solar eclipse, we're going into a void state. So it's really important, however we can do it, to make room for the void. Turn within. Let go of everything that is just taking up space. It's just clutter in our minds, clutter in our hearts. Maybe we don't even know what it all is, but so we be still and we listen. Is this really important to me anymore? Because everything we let go of creates space. There's the new life, and it's the bigness now, carries the bigness of the new life for the new world. These are little shoots of the new world that are going to be coming up after the eclipse. So the main thing is to create space for it to happen. We don't have to make it happen. We need to receive it, to go into receptive mode. And our culture doesn't understand to receive, but it's so powerful. So I say until 3 days after the eclipse, let everything we do, try and let it be a way to receive. No matter what we're doing, what can I receive now? Like, I just want to say, I've really received the incredible frequencies of this container that you have created. I mean, it's it's just really beautiful and exquisite. So I've loved receiving that by being here. Thank you so much.
Well, we're blessed for having you over here, and thank you for joining us. Any last words, questions from Suzi, Kathy?
I'm just so grateful. The timing of this is incredible. So grateful to have it right from your lips, Marcia. To be receptive on Monday, and to kind of just be ready to receive it, I guess. I love how you put that. I just wrote it down there. The shoots of the new world are coming up. That's created a beautiful visual. So thank you for that so much.
And not to be afraid, but, as we go in, if it seems dark or we feel empty or we feel lost, it's winter. It's the equivalent of night or winter before an eclipse. So we just give it the space, knowing spring comes out of winter, dawn comes out of night.
It's interesting that we just got blanketed with so much snow.
Isn't it? Yes.
Right? It just changed everything. The landscape is totally different than it was last night.
Yeah.
Right? So, and it will be different again on Monday because it's going to melt. So
it's that spiral, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, the spiral is everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much. And for our listeners, in 2 weeks' time, which is, when is 2 weeks' time from now? The 18, our second episode, we have Jennifer Jerkovsky. She's coming over. She does human design, which is a combination of astrology, Vertic philosophy, and Kabbalah. There's something about those three. It's actually interesting. I'm not going to spoil it. So we'll see you on the 18th, 7 p.m. Ireland time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 11 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you all for joining us. And that was an amazing first Open Mic UK. Thank you all for being with us and sharing the excitement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramzi. Great job.
Thank you, Ramzi.
Kathy. Thanks, Marcia.
Thank you.
Hold on.